Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everybody's doing well out there today. On this channel, obviously, we talk a lot about self-hosting, and one of the problems with self-hosting is that not everybody can do it, whether it's for hardware reasons, maybe your ISP won't let you, whatever the case is, not everybody can self-host, but I don't feel like that's a reason that you shouldn't be in charge of your own data. And that's why I've teamed up with Linode. And in this video, what I want to do is show you how to basically self-host your own password manager rather than relying on corporate options that are either expensive, restrictive, or whatever. We're also going to make this accessible on a domain name so that if you want to, you can also share this with friends and family and things like that, and make sure that their data is secured and away from prying eyes from those other corporate entities as well. So let's jump over to my desktop and get started with self-hosting VaultWarden on Linode. So here we are on my dashboard, my desktop, whatever you want to call it here. And I've got a couple of tabs open. The first one obviously here is Linode. The other one is Porkbun, and Porkbun is the domain registrar that I've been using for the last few years. They've worked with me a few times, and they're just a great company overall. Been really, really happy with them. So that's the example I'm going to use for the setup process here. However, if you're not using Porkbun, you may have to go through some different steps, but they're all pretty basic steps when it comes to the domain registrar portion of things. So what we want to do is actually go over here to our registrar, and what we're going to do is look for our in my case, the authoritative name servers. Yours might be called DNS servers. There may be a couple of different names that this section may go by, but what we want to do is change our DNS server names from whatever they currently are to, as we see here, ns1.linode.com, ns2, ns3, ns4, and ns5, all of those being completed with .linode.com. Once we've got that, it could take 24 to 48 hours in order for that domain information to propagate across the internet. So just know that when you do this, it's not going to happen immediately, but over the course of 24 to 48 hours, everything should be settled in and ready to go. Now, once we've got our authoritative, our DNS servers configured to point to Linode, the next thing we want to do is actually go over here to Linode and click on Create Linode. Now, to keep things simple, or as simple as we can possibly make them in this particular instance, what I want to do is come over here to Marketplace. I want to scroll down here to where it says Docker, and then I want to keep scrolling. Unfortunately, when you click that, it doesn't automatically take you to the next section, but that's fine. We're just going to scroll down here, and we're just going to hide the advanced options here. We don't need to do anything in this. We're just going to minimize that. Next, we're going to select an image. I'm going to select Debian 10, as that is the most current available image for this at the time of recording this video. So that's what we're going to do. Our region, basically, it's asking where do you want your data to be stored? Basically, in what region, what data center do you want your data to be available? For me, because it's the closest one, I'm going to select Dallas, Texas. And then, because obviously one of the points of self-hosting is to keep costs to a minimum, what we want to do next is actually go over here to shared CPU. And really, either of these first two options should be fine. I'm going to go ahead and select the 2 gig option because I like to go a little bit above and beyond. Now, here's the thing that I forgot to mention earlier. I can't believe I forgot to do this. Go down to the description. There's a link in the description where if you sign up using that link and all of the information that's down there, you'll get $100 to try out Linode free for 60 days. You'll get a $100 credit on your account just to check them out for 60 days. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this 2 gig option for $10 a month. The next thing I want to do is actually scroll down. I'm going to say that this is going to be, I'm going to call this VaultWarden, just so I know what it is. And then below that, I'm going to create a root password here. Now, for a little extra security, you could absolutely use an SSH key like right here. I'm not going to do that for the sake of this video, but you absolutely could. Below that, we've got the option for a VLAN. I'm not going to worry about a VLAN for the sake of what we're doing here. However, we are going to check the box for backups and private IP address. The backups, you should always have backups of your data. I read somewhere a while back, years ago, I honestly don't remember. It's just kind of been stuck in the back of my head for a long time of, if you don't have at least 3 copies of your data, you don't have any copies of your data. So we are going to have a backup set up here, and then also the private IP address we'll need for this, just so that it's set up and ready to go. and it's free. Why not, right? So basically, we're looking at $12.50 a month. And again, while I understand that these other third-party corporate entities may be charging less for that, this is $12.50 a month for as many users as you want to give access to your password manager. So this is basically the more people, more friends and family you add to this, effectively the cheaper it gets per user if you wanted to break it down that way. So, so anyway, what we're going to do next is click on Create Linode. And then we're just going to kind of hang out and wait for this to do its thing. And then once it's up and running, we'll go through the process of getting things set up and ready to go. So now that our VaultWarden Linode is up and running, the next thing we want to do is actually attach the domain name that we set up earlier. If you remember, over here, we decided that we were going to use tutorialserver.xyz, just for, in my case, for the demonstration here, but we're going to basically set up this domain name to actually work on Linode now. So we've gone ahead and we've set up our name servers here. So our next step, now that our Linode is up and running, is to come over here to where it says domains. I actually want to copy this. Like so, and then I'm going to create a new domain. And I'm going to paste that in there just so that we've got all of that and there's no chance that I've accidentally fat fingered it. And then I'm going to put in a password. And then in this case, what I want to do is actually insert default records here. And what I'm going to do is select the default records for one of my Linodes. And then I'm going to select our VaultWarden Linode here, and I'm going to click on Create Domain. Okay, so now we have our our tutorialserver.xyz domain set up here, and we can see that we have tutorialserver.xyz with an IP address of what our Linode's IP address is. If we pop this open over here in a new window, for VaultWarden, we can see that it's this 106.93, and that's what we have set up right in here as well. Now, we don't necessarily want our password manager to be on a root domain. It's just kind of bad practice. Some of these I like to hide in subdomains, and that's what we're going to do here. So what I want to do is actually set up a CNAME record, and the host name in this case, I'm just going to make PW for password. You could do VW for VaultWarden or PASS for pass. However you want to set up your subdomain for this setup is perfectly fine. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put an @ symbol right there. So it'll be PW in my case, .tutorialserver.xyz. And our TTL, which is time to live, is default, and that's perfectly fine. So we're going to go ahead and click on Save here. So now that we have our domain set up, we've got a subdomain URL set up. Next thing we want to do is actually install something called Nginx Proxy Manager as a reverse proxy for this setup. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, let's come back over here to our Linode, and let's open up a VaultWarden here. And let's go ahead and access this via SSH. So we're just going to copy this by clicking the little clipboard right there. And then we'll open up our terminal. Whatever terminal you want to use is perfectly fine. So let's drag this over. Let's make this a little bit bigger, and then let's paste that in and press enter. Since this is the first time I've connected to this server, it's saying, hey, we don't recognize the fingerprint of this server. Do you trust it? In my case, the answer is yes. And then I'll put in my password. So now I'm all set up and logged in. So now I can start installing the Docker containers that I want to install. Now, I know that I said that we're going to install VaultWarden, and we're absolutely going to do that. But first, what I want to do is set up a reverse proxy for this so that we can add a little bit of security to it more easily if we want to do that. So what I want to do is I want to go to, I'm going to change my directory. I want to do C, you know what, I lied. First thing I want to do is press Control L just to clear my screen, make it a little bit easier to deal with here. Let's go ahead and, so let's go ahead and let's do a CD /home. And then if we do an LS, there's nothing in there. That's great. That's what we want to see. So what I want to do is make a directory. So mkdir for make directory. And then I'm going to call this Docker. And I'm going to do an and or ampersand, which is also do this. And then we'll put in another command. We're going to do cd for change directory into Docker. And I'll press enter. And so now we have, we've created a new directory and we've moved into that directory. So the next thing I want to do, like I mentioned, we want to install a reverse proxy called Nginx Proxy Manager. So what I'm going to do is actually create a folder for that Nginx Proxy Manager to reside in. So what I'm going to do is mkdir, I'm going to call it npm for Nginx Proxy Manager, and we'll do and again, and we'll do cd npm like so, and press enter. So now we're in the directory we want to be in for deploying this particular Docker container. So what I'm going to do is actually nano space docker-compose.yml. This is kind of the standard file format for deploying Docker containers via the command line. So that's what we're going to use here. And I'm going to press enter. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do here is actually copy and paste in our Docker Compose file. So I've got this open in a different window. I will make this available in the description down below. What I'm going to do is right click and say yes. I'm just going to paste this in here, and then we're going to go through this. So we're going to use, like I said, Nginx Proxy Manager, version 3 for this Docker Compose. We're declaring a network called Nginx Proxy Manager. You know what? I want to change that. I'm going to call it NPM, just again to keep things simple. Like so. So our network name will be called NPM. This will become relevant later, but we're going to set up a network for this. Our service, we're going to use the JC21 Nginx Proxy Manager container, and we're going to use the latest version of that container. Our restart policy will be unless stopped. So basically, if anything goes wrong, it will automatically restart that container to try to fix whatever has gone wrong. Below that, we're going to use 3 different ports. We're going to use port 80 and then 443 for our traffic. Basically, for our insecure and our secure traffic, we'll use ports 80 and 443 respectively. Also, port 81, that's to access our Nginx Proxy Manager dashboard. So below that, we've got some volumes here, and we're going to locate those volumes in home/docker/npm. That's where we're located right now. We're going to put all of our configuration stuff in a data folder in this folder. We're also going to have a Let's Encrypt folder kind of set up the same way so that we can store our Let's Encrypt SSLs in a specific Let's Encrypt folder. And then below that, we've got our network that we're going to attach to here, but we're going to call this NPM as well. And then we're going to do Control-O and Enter to save. And then we'll do Control-X. And then what we can do is Docker, oops, you know what? Now we can do Docker -compose up-d. Now, basically we're saying bring up this Docker Compose file, and the -d means detach it. So basically, if we didn't have the -d there, what it would do is it would run everything, but it would show us everything that's going on in this terminal. And then when we close the terminal, it would shut down that remote Docker container, and we don't want that. So we want to run it detached so that it's not dependent on this terminal window being open. So once we've got all of this, we can press enter. Oops. So we've got something wrong with line 9. Let's take a look at that real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I know what the problem is. I've got a lot of extra space there. I want to make sure that I don't have that. There we go. Control-O, enter, X. And then Docker Compose up-d. There we go. So now it's going to go through the process of pulling everything that it needs to deploy the Nginx Proxy Manager reverse proxy container. And then once that's up and running, we'll come back and take a look.
A few moments later.
Okay, so now we're up and running. We can see that it has created npm_app_1. It says it's done. That's good. So let's do this. You know what? Let's make this full screen here. Oops. Let's make that full screen just so it's a little easier to see. What I want to do is Docker space PS, and this is going to tell us anything that's up and running in Docker. So right here, we've got Nginx Proxy Manager. I know it's kind of hard to see. Let's do this. There we go, like so. Okay, so we've got a container ID, we've got our image, we've got our command, we've got when it was created, how long it's been up, all of the ports that it's using, and then the name of the application here. So that just tells us that we're up and running. The next thing that we want to do, though, is take a look at the Docker networks that are available. Now, there are a few Docker networks that are set up by default when you install Docker. However, there's going to be one that Nginx Proxy Manager has created during this setup process that we just went through. So what we're going to do is Docker network list. And here we've got bridge, host, and none. Those are all of the default networks that are available. And then under that, we've got one more, which is npm_npm. So that's what we want to take a look at when we set up our password manager next. So in order to get our password manager set up and ready to go, the next thing we'll want to do, let's make this bigger, again, like we did before. Let's clear our screen, and then let's do cd space .. and that's just going to take us back a directory. And then we can do mkdir. We'll call it VW just for VaultWarden, and we'll do and cd VW, like so, and then we'll press enter. All right, so the next thing, now that we've created our folder, we moved into our folder, the next thing, like we did in our last one, was create a docker compose.yml file. So we'll do nano docker compose.yml and press enter. And then we're going to paste in our VaultWarden Docker Compose file here. Now, this is going to look very similar in that we've got a version, we've got a service, we've got an image of VaultWarden/server with the tag of latest, a container name of VaultWarden. Our network here is actually what we need to change next. Now, if we remember, the network that we saw in our list of networks was npm_npm. So that's what we're going to change this to right here. So do npm _npm, oops, like so. And then our volume, where we're going to store all of our relevant information here, is going to change as well. So we're going to make this home/docker/ in this case, we created a folder called VW. So that's where we're going to store everything. And then below that, we've got a port of 80. Now, we can't use port 80 because Nginx Proxy Manager is already using port 80. So what I want to do, I'm just going to create our changes to port 8080 on the external side, and then we'll map that to port 80 on the inside of the container. And then again, we've got restart unless stopped. And then our networks here are going to also be npm_npm, like so. And then external equals true in this case, basically saying, hey, we're going to connect to a network that's already been created. That's what this external true means here. So once we've got all of this, we're ready to actually deploy our container. So the first thing, rather the next thing we'll want to do is Control-O and enter to save, and then Control-X. And then we'll do docker-compose up-d and press enter. And now it's going to go through that same process of pulling everything, extracting it, getting it ready to go. Cool. Just that fast. I didn't even have to edit that. That was really, really fast. So what we can do, now that we've got that set up, let's copy this IP address from right here for our container, or for our Linode rather, and let's go to port 8080. And here is VaultWarden. Now here's a problem though. We can't actually use it as it currently stands because this requires an SSL in order to work. In fact, if I try to even create an account here, I'm just going to do, but then when I click submit, we're going to get an error message up here that says this browser requires HTTPS to use the web vault. So our next step will be to actually assign a subdomain to this and get an SSL on it and go from there. So let's head over to Nginx Proxy Manager to do that. So here is our login screen. Now Nginx Proxy Manager does have a default username and password. And what we can do is go to nginxproxymanager.com, click on Get Started, scroll down, and right here we've got an email address and password. Don't worry about this. Once we sign in, it's going to ask us to change all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this in here. And I'll copy this and paste this in here. And I'll press sign in. And like I said, it's going to ask us to change all of this. So I'm going to put in my stuff. Close that, and I'll click save. And then I'll put in the password that was already there, that change me password. And now that we've put in our new password and we've confirmed it, we can click save. Okay, so now that we've got our username and all that changed up, we're brought to our dashboard here. And right here it says there are no proxy hosts. And that's fine. So what we want to do here is actually go ahead and click on SSLs over here. We're going to add an SSL certificate up here and click on Let's Encrypt. We're going to type in pw.tutorialserver.xyz or whatever your preferred domain and subdomain are there. We're going to click on Test Server Reachability. Hey, that looks good. So we can go ahead and do that. We're going to click Close. And then we're just going to go ahead and generate an SSL here. We're going to agree to the terms and we'll click Save.
A few moments later.
Okay, so here we've got our SSL set up and ready to go. So let's create a host now. Now this is where things got a little bit weird for me that I've never run into before. What I'm going to do is click on Add a Proxy Host. I'm going to type in pw.tutorialserver.xyz and press Enter. If you don't, it disappears. It's weird. Press Enter. You'll be good to go. Our scheme is going to be HTTP. Now this time our forward host our forward host name /IP is going to be the internal IP address of the container on the Docker system. And in order to get that, we're going to run a command in our terminal window. So we're going to go ahead and do this. But here we can see it's going to be docker inspect. And then we're looking for the IP. Basically, we're going to go to the network settings. We're going to look for an IP address for VaultWarden. We're going to press enter. And right there, we can see 172.18.0.3. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 172.18.0.3. Now, normally, I would point this to port 8080 because that's the port that we used when we deployed this in Docker. However, because we're using an internal IP address, we can actually use the internal port. That 8080 just prevents any kind of conflict with other containers on the network. So what we're going to do is actually put in port 80 here. We're going to go ahead and cache the assets and do all of this stuff. And then for the WebSocket support, the common exploits, we're going to allow all of that. Then we'll go over here to SSLs, and we're going to select our pw.tutorialserver.xyz. We're going to select all of these options here, and then we'll click Save. Now, if everything goes well, if I click this, hey, there's VaultWarden. Now we're up and going, and we can see that we're on pw.tutorialserver.xyz. It's one of those weird things I'd never run into in all of this. So keep in mind that I'm also learning some of this as we go as well. So here we are. Now we can actually go over here and create an account. So I'm going to type that in. Okay, so I've gone ahead and entered my email address, my name, my master password. This will be the password that I will use to log into VaultWarden in the future. So basically this should be the only password you should ever need to remember if you use a password manager effectively. So then I've got a password hint down here. Of course, that's not the password hint I would actually use, but there we go. So now we'll click Submit. And so now it says up here in the top right-hand corner, a new account has been created. You may log in. So I'm going to type in my password. And here we go. Now we are logged in to our VaultWarden on Linode using a subdomain to access our VaultWarden here. So this again means that you could send your friends and family here to set up their own accounts and then manage their passwords this way. So the next thing I want to do is actually show you how to get this set up in your browser. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the different browsers. Basically, what you're going to do is go to whichever browser you're using. You're going to go to their app store. So whether it's Firefox or Chrome or Safari or whatever, and you're going to install the VaultWarden. I know we installed VaultWarden, but VaultWarden is a branch or a spin-off of VaultWarden. You're going to install the VaultWarden browser application or browser extension, whatever your browser calls it. Once you have that installed, what you should see is something that looks like this icon right here. We're going to click that. We're going to click the little gear right up here. And then the next thing we're going to do is type in our server's web address. So in this case, pw.tutorialserver.xyz. In fact, to make this easier, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this, just to avoid the potential of fat fingering something or whatever. So click the gear. I'm just going to paste that in there like so. And then I'll click Save. And then I'll click Login. It's already got my email address in there from something else, and that's fine. I'm going to go ahead, type in my password there, and there are no items in this list. And that's fine. There shouldn't be. There's nothing here because we just installed this. Now, there are some additional things that I would encourage you to do. We're going to come back to the website. We're going to go over here to Settings. Basically, if we go to the Settings tab, we can see that we've got all of our account information here for our account, our email, our password, our master password, all of this kind of stuff. Change that as you see fit, as you need to moving forward. What we want to do, though, is go up here to Options. We can change the Vault timeout. We can decide if we want to lock it or log out. Do you want to enable or disable website icons, gravatars, all of that sort of thing? Do you want to use a full width layout? You could if you wanted. I like to use the dark theme here, so let's go ahead and do that. Organizations, if you wanted to set this up for your business, you could absolutely do that and have, like an accounting organization and a design organization and all of these different organizations that would then share their resources if you wanted them to do that. And that's what you can do with organizations. Two-step login. I can't encourage this enough. Whether you use an authenticator app on your phone, or even better would be to use a USB key like a Yubico or something like that, just so that you get a physical thing in your hand that you have to plug in and touch in order to authenticate. I would definitely encourage using a two-factor authentication setup for your password manager here, just as an extra level of security. They've got some domain rules in here, so basically just global equivalent domain. So if you go to one thing, it also means the same thing for some of these different things here, and I appreciate that. If you've got your own, you can add those here as well. Emergency access, this is let's say something bad happens to you or someone else or whatever, whoever has an account on here can set up a trusted emergency access in case something happens, so that they can also gain access to your stuff. If, like I said, if something bad happens and you can no longer access this, they can on your behalf. That's what this is for. But that's kind of the gist of getting VaultWarden, your own personal password manager set up that you can have as many people on as you'd like on Linode, so that you're paying a small monthly fee for a ton of users versus a single fee per user, and dealing with the restrictions that a lot of these corporations like to inflict. I really do mean inflict on their users. I feel some of them have gone too far. I've been hosting Bitwarden back when I first started, Bitwarden RS, I suppose. I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I'm super stoked. I don't miss the other password managers that I've used in the past. Having something that is under my control, and in this case, having backups built in by default with Linode, you can't go wrong with that. So, like I said, all of this will be available in the description down below, so that you can get some of the information that you'll need for this. As I mentioned earlier, all of this will be available in the description down below. I'll have a blog post or something written up about it, so that you can access all of this information on how to do some of the trickier things. Also, while you're down there in the description, there will be a link that you can click and head over to Linode, where you'll get $100 for 60 days just to check it out, try stuff out, see if Linode is the right fit for you. So definitely check out that link as well. But with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So as always, thanks for your time. I always appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you in the next video.